Welcome everybody. I'm Meredith Henderson and I am the Interim Executive Director and Deputy Director for Go Global NC. And I'm delighted to be here with you today hosting this information session about Global SchoolNet's International CyberFair. This is a really exciting project that can help your students engage globally, even when they're working virtually here at home in North Carolina. So I wanted to take just a few moments for those of you who may not be familiar with us to give you a quick introduction to Go Global NC so that you can get to know a little bit more about us, who we are, and how we can support global education efforts here in North Carolina. First of all, from our team in the virtual room today, in addition to me, we have two other Go Global NC team members, Dr. June Chen, who is our Director for World Language Programs, and Rachel Rosenbaum, who's our Assistant Program Director for Global Learning. You're going to be hearing more from June in just a few moments, and Rachel is going to help us facilitate any Q&A that we have at the end of the session. But we'd like to know who you all are. If you would please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat with your name, maybe the subject and grade level that you teach, and where you are in the state, that would be great. And while you're there in the chat, you'll notice that Rachel has put in a link to a Google Sheet in the chat. If you haven't already done so, please just take a moment to click on that link and go to that sheet to sign in with your name and your email address. So on to Go Global NC. If I can make this positive, there we go. So our mission is to connect North Carolina and the world. We were founded in 1979 by Governor Jim Hunt, and we're part of the UNC system. And we design and deliver domestic and international learning programs and events that build the skills of North Carolina's business, community, and policy leaders, educators, and students. And since 1979, our participants have studied and visited 50 different countries. We've hosted more than 5,000 international visitors here to North Carolina, and we've taken nearly 10,000 North Carolinians abroad, impacting many more here at home. Something that's a bit unique about Go Global NC is the breadth and variety of our programming. We are, during our 40+ year history, Go Global NC has learned that there's a great advantage to ensure that leaders on multiple levels from a variety of professions have the opportunity to understand global engagement as it applies to their field of expertise. So while not all of our programs directly impact K-12 educators, they do impact the context in which we all live and work. So I'm just going to do a really quick run through of our programs. So we have our Global Leaders Program, and that's designed to help policy, business, and community leaders focus on international business, trade, and education opportunities for North Carolina. The Coalition for Global Competitiveness is a collaborative effort of government, academic, nonprofit, and business leaders with a focus on international engagement. Our Latino Initiative programs provide a transformative experience through intense domestic training and an immersive learning experience in Mexico to help business, community, education, public safety, health, and other leaders understand the challenges and opportunities in our increasingly diverse communities. Intercultural competence is a necessary tool for working effectively and appropriately with partners, coworkers, employees, vendors, and students from diverse countries and cultures. And so Go Global NC offers customized seminars and workshops to build intercultural competence. Our China programs strive to help North Carolinians better understand China, the world's second largest economy and North Carolina's third largest trading partner. We support Chinese language programs in K-12 schools, and we offer Chinese language proficiency training and professional development and support to Chinese language teachers across the state. Cultural Correspondence utilizes virtual technology to build connections between university students studying abroad and K-12 classrooms here in North Carolina to help deepen cultural understanding and add an international dimension to any subject matter. And our Go Global NC's Global Teachers programs build the competence and confidence of participants to employ a global perspective in the classroom and help their students develop these skills as well. It's a professional development program for K-12 educators at any grade level, any subject area, that provides an in-depth learning experience about the history, culture, environment, and educational systems of other countries. As you all know, when COVID-19 hit, many programs that brought people together in North Carolina or around the world stopped, at least temporarily. But while global mobility may be halted, intercultural learning is not. And so we've been working over the last couple of months to find new ways to bring intercultural programming to our stakeholders. And we're so excited about some of these new opportunities. And one of those opportunities is Global SchoolNet's International CyberFair. So just briefly before that, why global education? Well, we know that the vision of the North Carolina State Board of Education is that every public school student in North Carolina will be empowered to accept academic challenges, prepared to pursue their chosen path after graduating high school, and encouraged to become lifelong learners who will engage in a globally collaborative society. So global education is the means to ensuring that our North Carolina public school graduates are globally engaged and productive citizens. And there are now recognitions that you all can earn, your schools can earn, and even your students can earn about global education. On the DPI website, which is here at this bit.ly, you can find additional information about the state of North Carolina's global education initiatives in K-12. And I'm going to ask June now to talk a little bit about what Go Global NC is going to be doing for those of you all who are going to be involved in this International CyberFair. June?
Sure, thank you, Meredith. Could you move on to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Go Global NC likes to acknowledge the educators who organize their students to participate in International CyberFair. The registration is open now. After you register, please contact me at the email on this slide. And later in April, share with Go Global NC the submitted digital content of your student team. We'll then email digital certificates of teacher leader in global engagement to you and your school principal as a way to celebrate your achievement. And next slide, please, Meredith. Now comes the highlight of this meeting. We are pleased to have Dr. Yvonne Marie-Andre with us today. She is an internet pioneer and e-learning visionary. She founded the Global SchoolNet Foundation and is the creator of the Global Schoolhouse. Dr. Andre's innovative programs demonstrate the power of the internet to engage youth in activities that help their local community and connects them to each other globally to benefit humanity. Dr. Andre highlights education programs from around the globe that blend online and offline learning, and her works have touched people in the US, Canada, Asia, Europe, Australia, South America, and Africa. Dr. Andre is an accomplished professional. She was named one of the 25 most influential people worldwide in education technology and was inducted into the Internet Hall of Fame for her work as an internet innovator and global connector. Today, we are fortunate to have her with us to tell us about her work in creating and leading the International CyberFair. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Yvonne Marie-Andre. Yvonne?
Thank you, June. Okay, wonderful introduction. If I may share my screen, I want to pull up a few slides that'll just help put this into perspective. So let me see here. All right, give me the thumbs up if you can see the slide. All right, great. So yeah, so global greetings to all you awesome teachers that are participating today, and to those of you that will be watching this on playback. Thank you for recording it, because I know how hard it is for everybody to get together during real time. It's like almost impossible these days. So we really rely on these playback recordings. A big thank you to June Chen and Global North Carolina for allowing me to tell you about CyberFair. My name, as you already know, is Yvonne Marie-Andres, and I co-founded the Global SchoolNet Foundation many decades ago when I was a middle school teacher in Oceanside, California, and I was looking for some sort of educational methodology that would help my very low achieving students. And I will tell you more about that as we get down to the slideshow. But Global SchoolNet's vision is to combine education and technology to support learning, create workforce skills, and really make students become responsible citizens, both locally and globally. So again, thank you for recording this. And let me see if I can make this go to my next slide. All right, wonderful. Okay, so over the years, our tools have changed. The technology has changed. I don't know what ages you all are, but I'm assuming that being that you're teachers, you're anywhere, from your 30s on up. And as you are aware, we're sort of in a new era of where where it's so easy to connect, and social media has become such an important thing. And for students, it's all about, getting that attention on social media. So over the years, our Global SchoolNet's special focus has been on collaborative learning and connecting youth to their communities locally and globally, but having them create content that's authentic and that's also making a difference in the world. So let me introduce you, let me tell you a little bit about our CyberFair program. So back a long time ago in 1996, with some help from Cisco Systems and some other companies at the time, we received some funding, and we were asked to create the ultimate collaborative project. And we decided to create a virtual version of a World's Fair. And in the old days, people would go to a World's Fair and you would learn about different foods and different cultures, the way people dress and their businesses and so on. And we don't have those anymore. And we have, you can travel to a lot of places online, and some people can actually travel, or used to be able to travel, in real life. But we wanted young people to be able to understand what was special about their own community and create some sort of a story or an artifact. And it could take any form. Back in the day, it was blogs, and then it became websites, and then videos. Now students are creating these wonderful podcasts. Some are even creating songs that tell some story about their local community. We wanted it to be authentic, and we wanted it to make a difference in their community. So, and we wanted to, as they were doing this, have them practice skills that would be career readiness skills, workforce readiness skills. So there's a very strong component in project management and time management. CyberFair uses, the CyberFair model uses a digital version of constructivist learning. First, in those of you that are familiar with constructivist learning know that it says that people learn best when they produce evidence of what they've learned. And the evidence can be in the form of artifacts, anything that's tangible and visible, anything that can be evaluated. And again, from a teacher standpoint, it would be written reports, artwork, music, podcasts, videos, and so on. Secondly, creating the artifacts is the best way to produce that evidence. Thirdly, students benefit greatly when they share their work with an audience of their peers. So one thing that sets CyberFair apart from other programs is that there are a lot of programs that have students creating something and sharing it, putting it up on the web, whether it's just within their own school or their own community. But very few programs give students a global audience, and we really wanted that to be part of it. So we wanted students to understand what was special about the community, but also learn about the rest of the world. So thirdly, we include the part of peer review, which says that students benefit when they get feedback from others, from their peers. And lastly, students should not only become content consumers, of course, content creators, but they should be content evaluators. And constructivist learning provides that, that infrastructure to provide that feedback in a way of evaluation to the content creators. So let me say that this program has been going on for, as I said, 26 years. And it can be either, you can participate in the competition part or the exhibition part. And the difference is the competition part, you agree to evaluate other school projects, a minimum of 6 projects. The exhibition part, you create, your students create a project, you put it out there, and that's enough for the first year. And again, different people are at different levels and have different time commitments. So there's a whole variety of ways to implement this. The main focus is the main idea is to focus on your local community, but by doing so, you also then reach a global audience. It captures best practices because it creates an institutional history of what that group has created. And when we move on to a few other slides, I'm going to show you some projects from a long time ago, some as long as 10 years ago from North Carolina that are still up there. So when I say an institutional history, it's there. And so over the years, we've been able to create this gallery of more than 40,000 projects from 105 countries. So what we did is we looked, because this was going to be a national and international project, we looked at the state frameworks, the state standards from across all the states in the US and around the world. So we wanted this to be a project that anybody could participate in any grade level, whether it's elementary, middle school, high school. And then we took all of those, we had a huge advisory committee, and we divided those into 8 very broad categories that any teacher teaching any subject can find a reason to fit into one of those categories. And when we get a little deeper, you'll be able to see what I mean. In each of those categories, we provided some discussion questions to introduce the topic, some learning activities that you could assign to the students, and then some project examples from past projects. So I'm actually right now going to jump to the web if this works. Pull this up. Okay, give me the thumbs up if you can see my website. Thumbs up. Can everybody see the website? Yeah, okay. Have to do a little check here. So now we're back on the actual CyberFair website. And here are the 8 categories. So from the side here, you would see if you wanted to learn more about the categories, you would pick program categories. And so there are the 8 categories here. We're going to go into the first category. And the basic idea is to create a website or a narrated slideshow or some sort of project or a video that spotlights famous or important people in your community. And we define that as either politicians, authors, artists, musicians, sports figures, so on. So who are the local leaders? Who are the people that your community is proud of? So when I click further in, again, each one of these 8 categories, you'll find the task, which I just read you. You'll find some learning objectives. So in this case, students will understand the qualities and individual responsibilities required of citizens in their country. Students will be able to list their local community leaders and describe their contributions. Well, how do kids do that? You know, we started this in '96. The process was a little bit different, but some of the ways are still applicable. So who are the local leaders? How can you find out how they are? What path did they take? What are the qualities of being a leader? What's the difference between being a leader and being famous? That's a really important one, I think, for teachers and parents to discuss with their students. So that's how you might introduce it, and then you can give them some starter activities. And here's a sampling of different ways that you might find out who the local leaders are in your community. Now, keep in mind, for each of the 8 categories, you're going to find similar activities. So you can develop a questionnaire. You can use the local newspaper, whether it's in print or online. You can listen to TV stations. One of the things I had my students do, this was again way back when I was teaching middle school, I had them watch the nightly news, for every night for 30 minutes and talk about what the main news stories were, and were they talking about any of the important people in their community. Look for similarities and differences between the neighboring communities, and so on and so on. They can interview their parents and their grandparents. Okay, so let me go back to my, so that's just an example of the 8 different categories. You'll find the learning activities, you'll find the discussion questions, and then there'll be project examples, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So if somebody wants to do a CyberFair project, how does one begin? It can be daunting if you've never done one before, or you think it might be daunting, but we've tried to make this as easy as possible by creating a implementation guide. Basically, there are very simple steps. You select the topic that you want to research. You, within a category, so you pick a category and then the topic within that category. You create teams, and teams can be as small as 2 or 3 students, as many as the entire class or an entire school contributing to a topic. So again, just using as an example the leaders category, it could be that if it's a number of classes that want to participate, class A is doing local musicians, and class B is doing local artists, and class C is doing, whatever, politicians, and, and so on. So there's different ways of teaching collaboration and encouraging collaboration. You gather the information. So what kind of information is out there, and where are the sources? There's a heavy emphasis on citing, properly citing your sources and making sure that they're valid sources. The information can be gotten through telephone interviews, Zoom interviews. Students make appointments to contact their mayor and ask their mayor, what was your path to becoming mayor? What made you want to become mayor? What was your inspiration? Did other people inspire you? What do you hope to accomplish? And so on. So that can be done through telephone, through video conferencing. You can go out and take pictures. Let's say it's mural art. In San Diego, where we are, we have a lot of street art where students go around and take photographs of the different murals, and then they try to identify who the artists are. They try to contact the artists, through their websites or through online presence, and interview them. So they get all this information, again, working as a team. We'll get more into the team part of it. And then they tell a story. Like, what's the point of doing all of this unless you have some sort of story to tell? And the stories that have some sort of takeaway action, call to action, are even better. Now, again, what makes CyberFair different from many projects is there's several parts. They do their research, collect all their information, tell their story, but the whole time they're keeping sort of what we call a journal or project narrative. They're explaining who was involved, what technologies they used, what were the difficulties they had to overcome, how much time did they spend, were there any unexpected consequences or surprises they didn't know about. So that's a big part of it. And when we go on to our examples, you'll see that Global SchoolNet has collected these project narratives over the last 26 years. So we can actually go back and see what these people said, how they organized their project. Some of the websites are no longer available because that's just the nature of the web, and URLs change and websites come and go, but all the project narratives are there. And then again, if you choose, you go on and you participate in the peer review where you review a minimum of 6 other projects. And the feedback that we've received is that sometimes is more valuable, or oftentimes is more valuable than doing the project themselves, because as teachers, you know, students want to create something, whether it's, you know, a report or, you know, some 3D thing or whatever it is, and they put it out there, but then they don't understand what sets theirs apart from others. When you participate in a peer review and you're looking at other projects and you're giving feedback, suddenly they understand how their own project could have been better. So this is a very, very strong component, and we encourage schools to participate in the peer review, or at least use the rubric that we provide, even if they don't want to, again, participate in the full-on competition. And then for the evaluation, there's different levels. There's a self-assessment, and then of course the teacher assesses in different ways. And then the CyberFair program recognizes best practices by announcing the winners. So let me go on to say, if that sounded like a lot of work, we try to make it a little bit easier by creating a one-page set of instructions, easy getting started guide for each one of these steps. So how do you introduce it at your school? How do you organize a team? How do you select a research topic within a category? How do you define a scope, a project plan, a timeline? Some of these words may even sound unfamiliar, but we work very closely with the PMI, the Project Management Institute. And the Project Management Institute is made up of, you know, more than 1 million project managers across all levels of industry, everything from education to government, to military, to everything. And these are people that are responsible for creating their project plans, city planning, you know, company planning, research planning, and so on. So there's some different principles in there, which include defining the scope of your project, figuring out what can possibly go wrong. And we try to give you all of these ideas in one page, so we don't overload you with all of them. So again, one page on how to prepare for the peer review, how to publicize your projects on social media, how to do community outreach. Some of these things will be different, you know, when you're in lockdown than they were when we created this guide, you know, a couple of years ago. But let me just jump to the guide and show you what it looks like. This is available online. And so let me go to down here. Okay. So how would you, if you decide you want to participate in this project, how do you even introduce it at your location? And again, after doing this for 26 years and doing it in so many locations across the US and around the world, we know this is how it's done. So schedule a meeting. It can be an hour meeting, it can be 45-minute meeting. It can, you send an invitation to all potential contributors. You say, hey, we're thinking about doing a CyberFair project. You know, here's what we're thinking about doing. So do some sort of a slideshow. Give some examples of existing CyberFair videos. We have online on our YouTube channel a bunch of CyberFair videos from schools that have participated in the past. Show some of the past projects. And then the most important part is the organizational part. And I know that it's sometimes hard work to be organized, but it really pays off when you are. So who's going to be the project leader? What time frame is the project going to take place? So I'm talking to you about this in December, and we're going to go on holidays. So do you want to start it before then? Probably not. You know, maybe in January. The CyberFair projects are due on March 20th. So you have more than 3 months to make this happen. Some schools are able to do it in, you know, 3 weeks, and some spread it out over a longer period of time. So decide what time frame will it take place, what will the topic be, who should be invited to contribute. So again, if you're going to do, I'll just use local leaders, if you're going to do local leaders, you know, who should we talk to the city council? Should we talk to the mayor? Should we talk to the police chief? Who should we talk to? what are the tasks that are going to be involved and who is going to do that? One of the best things about CyberFair is not every kid is doing the same thing. So you create a team, and a team can be, again, anywhere from a few kids to hundreds of kids. You'll see on some of the projects, there's hundreds of kids that are doing it. Who's doing the research? Who's doing the interviewing? Who's doing the videotaping? Who's doing who's better at computer skills? And they're doing the computer part of it. And I can tell you that there are some students that are excellent. They have excellent interview skills. So they are the ones that are not afraid to be in front of the camera, and they'll do a Zoom conference and they'll interview, you know, the city planners or, you know, the local artists or whoever it happens to be. And there are some that do not want to do that at all. They want to be behind the scenes, you know, creating the graphics for the website. What tools will be used? And then as the teacher, you decide how it's going to be evaluated. So always, you know, different methods when you're doing a group project than when you're doing individual projects. And we give you some suggestions on evaluation in the implementation guide. All right, you create a project plan and a timeline. I'm going to show you what that looks like. You're going to send periodic updates to the participants and have, you know, periodic face-to-face meetings. All right, how do you organize a team? Well, again, because this is done in so many different locations, we've seen many different ways to do it. And it can be individual classrooms, it can be an entire school, it can be a community organization, it can be vertical teaming, students from one subject area across several grade levels. For example, 7th, 8th, 9th grade language arts might want to do it, or social studies and so on. It can be horizontal. All 10th grade classes are going to participate, or it can be special populations, you know, the student council, the gifted, the special needs, so on and so on. We've seen all of these different ways to organize it. Okay. Here's probably the most important tip that I'm going to give you for this project and for every other project that you do. The biggest mistake that teams make is to be too ambitious and attempt to accomplish too much. If you find yourself with extra time or resources, you can always add to your project. So think small, don't think big. Don't think we're gonna like chronicle every leader in our community, every artist in our community, every musician in our community. It's not gonna work. We're gonna do, you know, 2 or 3 or whatever. So you define the goal. So in this case example, the goal of our project is to showcase local leaders who are doing good things for our community. Okay, it's very, very broad. What are the deliverables? Okay, again, think small. We'll conduct 4 or more video interviews with leaders and post those video interviews online. We will make a video and slide presentation for the school board and the city council. Very concrete, very precise, very measurable. Project constraints, make a list of all your needs, limitations, challenges. Okay, it's called risk analysis in the language of project management. And so here's a constraint. We have 6 weeks to complete our project. We're going to lose 1 week due to testing or due to vacation or due to unknown things, or, you know, technology is going to go down. And this was done again before schools were all online. We must reserve computer time in the media center to do our research. We'll need a video camera, so on and so on. So it's just an example. That's the scope. So be realistic in your scope. Create your project plan. Who are the people resources that are going to be involved? What are the technology resources you're going to need? And do you need any other resources? Again, in the case of pre-COVID, sometimes transportation was needed to go to local places. Parents needed to drive their kids to, you know, take photographs of historic landmarks, that kind of a thing. Okay. And risk analysis, what can go wrong? Sometimes the electricity goes out. Believe it or not, in the spirit of 2020, today, my there was supposed to be an electrical outage in my area, and I was very, very nervous about that. So I had made alternative plans to go somewhere else to do this presentation. At the last minute, they said they canceled the electrical outage, so you never know. unexpected weather conditions, so on and so on. How will you do your evaluation? Assessment. Can students assess their own projects? And again, we can give you some examples or how that's done. Teacher evaluation and community feedback. Students loved community feedback. Okay, and then finally, the most important thing is time management. There isn't anybody that couldn't use some help in time management and figuring out, breaking down that task into different increments that are doable. So this is just an example. This is not a recipe or a prescription. So if this project, okay, the timetable below is estimated for each phase of the project based on our 2 to 3 member team. So if you have 2 or 3 members, how much time goes into the planning? When we say that it's going to take 2 weeks, we're talking about 1 or 2 hours per week divided amongst all the team members. That's not for each individual member, and so on. All right. Go on to the next time. I know I'm going at my New York pace. I live in California. I moved here after college, but I grew up in New York. So I'm giving you the New York pace presentation here. So some examples. There are a number of schools that have participated in CyberFair in the past from North Carolina. This was one that I found. This was Sunset Park Elementary School. And I love this quote. We always ask them to give us a soundbite. And this school participated in local leaders, and their soundbite was, everyone who participated in this project was surprised to learn about how many famous people can be tied to our quiet city of Wilmington. Our city is a haven for the literature community as well as the sports and movie industries. And this is something that the students didn't know, and one of the things about CyberFair is that many people don't appreciate what's special about their own city or their culture or where they live. And by creating these artifacts, it helps them understand. It really centers them and makes them understand. So all of these narratives still exist. This is a live website here. And even though their website is no longer there, this is from, what year is this from? 2001, so 9 years ago. Or 19 years ago, their website's not there, but their narrative is, and you can see what they had to say about their community, about their computer access, about the problems they had to overcome, how this project supported their coursework, how their students acted as ambassadors. So for every single project, this narrative exists, going for 40,000 projects, basically. All right, so this is a project that I loved, also from North Carolina, from Jacksonville. 25 students, ages 9 through 11, participated. They participated in the environmental awareness category. Their narrative is there. I'll share the slideshow so you can look at it more deeply when you want to. But what was so cool about this is their website is still there. This website is still live online. And these kids are probably now in college, maybe some of them even parents, and they were in 4th grade when they created this website. And so here's some photos, and they talk about what they were doing. They were talking about their recycling project, and so on. And another part that's required for CyberFair is they have to provide their bibliography. Where did they get their information from? Some are more detailed than others, and make sure that they have, permission to use that information. All right. So some international examples. This one was a collaborative project between high school students in Australia and Singapore. They also did environmental issues, and they were looking at animal conservation, and they were striving to raise awareness about climate impacts, urbanization, and other impacts. And what's fun about CyberFair is you get to learn about the rest of the world through looking at these different projects. And then this is an example of what a great job this school in Indonesia did in telling how each student contributed. So for the schools that are English is not their first language, they actually have to do 2 versions of their project. They have to do a version in their own language, and then they have to do a translated version in English so that everybody can understand it and view it. So this one says I translated the article. This one said I did the research. This one said I added the video, and this one said I designed the website. Okay, just a quick overview. The projects and the narratives, take a little bit of time. You really have to reflect and think about the answers to these questions. So don't wait to the last minute to think about the narrative. We're asking you to define your community, and we describe, what challenges and so on. So it's not a 5-minute job. It takes a little bit of time to do the narrative. So the projects and narratives due March 20th. If you decide to participate in peer review, there's a period between April 5th and April 22nd. You get review assignments, you get a rubric that we provide, and then we announce the winners in May. I invite you to connect with us through our website, through Twitter, through Facebook, through YouTube, Instagram as well. We're on Instagram. Facebook, we're probably the most active in posting different activities and groups and opportunities and so on. But CyberFair is only one of our projects. So I do want to say that we support a number of different collaborative projects. Turn it over to you for questions and answers.
How many entries were there last year?
So last year there were only 50 entries because of COVID. Normally we get anywhere from 200 to 2,000 entries. Many schools had to drop out, so I was just excited to even see 50 entries. And let me do a screen share one more time here. Let's see here. All right. Again, can you see? Thumbs up if you can see my screen. Anybody ever? Okay. So how do you, if you're interested in seeing more, learning more about, whoops, I did not need to do that. Sorry. Let me go back here. Here we go, Global SchoolNet. So from the Global SchoolNet homepage, on the top here is International CyberFair. And there's so much information, that I couldn't possibly share with you in the small amount of time. But if you look at participants, you can search by different criteria. So I'm just going to pick something. Let's say I want to do country. I want to do China. I want to do all years. I want to do a search. So there's been 421 projects. Again, not all of these were completed. These are sometimes things happen, and especially the first year, the teachers do it and they don't complete their final project. But you can look at the different locations that they were from. Let me go back. If I want to do state, I want to do North Carolina. I do search again. So you can look back and you can see the years. In the early years, we had more participation than we had recently. For whatever reason, I'm not really sure. We actually had a strong advocate, back in the early 2000s, somebody that was really promoting it. So I'm really excited that you decided to become affiliate, because that's what we need. We need kind of feet, on the street making this thing happen. But anyway, so you can also look at the winners from each year. So last year, here are some of the winners. A lot of them will be from Asia because COVID hit them early. They got back in school. They were able to finish some of their projects. And again, each one of these links will take you to their narrative and then take you to their website. And it's by category. So if you want to see the kinds of things they did, you know, local leaders or businesses and so on. So again, each year you can look and see how many projects there were. Okay, good question.
And then the next question I see in the chat is, what is the registration fee?
It doesn't cost anything. You know, it's never cost anything. Yeah. So what you do is you, let me go to my home page here and you register. And so I'm already registered and that's why this is saying this to me. But what you'll do is, okay, so one of the things I should have mentioned is that we really encourage this to have there to be one entry per school. So that puts a lot of pressure on if there are, you know, teachers, multiple teachers at a particular school that want to do this to work together to create one entry. But there's a reason for that. When I was a middle school teacher, what often happened, there were great things happening in one classroom that everybody knew about and didn't know about the rest of the great things happening at the rest of the schools. So we wanted the school to get credit for this, not individual classrooms. So it still could be one classroom, or it could be 3 classrooms, or it could be, you know, many, many classrooms. But the idea was to get the school to give the option of as many people that want to participate at that school to contribute in any which way. And it didn't have to be equally. It just, you know, it's like when you watch those movie credits at the end of a movie and you see everything scrolling by, including the animal traders and the trainers and the caterers and so on, like who contributed to make this movie happen. So we want as many people to contribute in any which way that they can. So one project per school. So if it's a district, we suggest that maybe, you know, one school does leaders and one school does environment. You don't have to do this, but that's been a very successful approach. And you know, if it's the state, you know, I mean, you can sort of, you can provide as much guidance as you want. But anyway, the question was there a fee? There is no fee. So you just register and you register as the person that's registering the CyberFair project registers on Global SchoolNet. It has to be an adult, cannot be a student, has to be an official educator. This is all teacher-driven, adult-driven. Students cannot upload or do anything. It all has to be, you know, the teacher provides fills out the project narrative. Now, what I recommend is that you pull up the questions of the project narrative, you know, in some sort of overhead display, and you discuss it with the students, and somebody takes notes, but then the teacher is the one that, you know, copies and pastes it into the form. So everybody contributes, but ultimately no students are putting anything there without the control of the teacher. When I say teacher, it could be adult, it can be a parent volunteer, or, you know, a school, you know, a teacher aide or whatever it happens to be. So yes, next question.
Thank you. The next question is, other than projects that are too ambitious, what other advice do you have to help ensure projects can be completed?
So timeline. And this is a skill, this is something that is going to be more valuable than any content that students are learning, is, okay, I have however many weeks to complete. I have 4 weeks or 6 weeks to complete this project. Let's list all the tasks that have to be accomplished. Let's make a list. What do I have to do? Let's guess how much time it's going to take for each one of these tasks. They're not going to know. I wouldn't know. I don't know. We also have, we do things around our own home projects. We don't know, but we're going to guess. And like, okay, we thought it was going to take whatever, 2 hours to do online research, and it really took 4 hours. So now we have to adjust our timeline. So at the end of week 1, let's readjust our timeline. And I can tell you that I don't care what project they're doing or what they're discovering or learning, they will be able to use that when they go on to college, or they go into the workforce, or they go into their, whatever, their own home. Project management is such a huge part of this, time management, project management. And it's the thing that we all struggle with, as much as I work with this and talk about it and so on. I mean, it's just keeping yourself at task and making yourself accountable is, it takes practice. So, but it's a wonderful skill if you can get students started on that path.
Great. Well, it looks like that's all of our questions for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and speak with us and answer the questions. I think I'm going to kick it back over to June.
Yes, Rachel, thank you. And yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Andre, for sharing this great opportunity with North Carolina. And it's indeed a great way to engage students in understanding their communities and the rest of the world. And today it's very impressive to see entries from North Carolina. And I think that's a great idea to make this whole project, this event, this program relatable to us. And again, really appreciate your time and expertise. Meredith, do you have anything to add?
Sure, I just want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. And for those of you who are watching this on recording, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact June. The slide that's up right now has her email address on it, and it will be available to you. And we are just so excited that folks are interested in this, and let us know if there are ways that we can help. And I want to add my appreciation to Dr. Andres for joining us today to talk about this. Thank you.